Hi everybody, how are you? I'm in yet a different part of my house today, in the sewing room where the magic happens. My sewing machines. It's a bit boring and bland in here because I haven't decorated it yet since moving in, and then once I do that, once I've got organised and things aren't just in piles and when they're on rails and shelves and things, I do plan to do a sewing room tour video, if only because it'll make me get it organised. But for now it's a mess, so you only get to see this little area. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. Today I'm going to talk about my favourite tools because I got a couple of new things that I really like, so I thought I could sort of lump them all together with some things I already had and really liked and do a quick little favourite tools video. I will start with my favourite, which you might have already noticed here, is my new giant ruler. I think I saw this on Heather of Closet Case Files blog, I think, when she was using it to line up the grain line, which I thought was such a good idea. Before I had this, what I would do is pin the end of the grain line and then measure the distance from the pin to the selvage and then measure the other end and make sure the distance was the same, which I do still sort of do just to keep things in place. But this is really handy because you have a wider surface area, so you can just align one of the many lines on it along with your grain line, and then make sure that one of your other straight lines aligns with the selvage. And if your grain line is close enough to the selvage, you can use it that way, and then you can make sure that you can be extra sure because you've got more of the grain line matching up with your ruler. Hope that made sense. But an added extra good thing that I wasn't expecting was, I don't know how well you're going to be able to see because it's in front of me, but it's got angle lines on it too, which I have found so useful. The 45-degree angle has made making bias binding so much easier because you just lay the fabric out straight, line the 45-degree angle up with a selvage, and then use the edge of the ruler as a cutting guide. And then once you've cut one strip, I then just move it along and line up one of usually the inch line up with the cut edge, and then just easily whiz through making strips of binding tape. You do then have to seam them together, but I'm really bad at the continuous binding method. I tried doing that last time I made bias tape and all of my bits are so wonky, it's ridiculous. So yeah, back to this next time, and it's got a good weight to it as well, so it doesn't wiggle around as much when you're holding it onto things. So yes, I would recommend a giant ruler. I think mine came from Amazon. Most of my things came from Amazon, but obviously any of your sewing supply shops or like Hobbycraft, eBay, anyway, there will be many places you can get that. Not a new one, but very much one of my favourite tools is my Rotary Cutter. Mine is a 45mm Ulfa one. I have got my own, the smaller one for tighter curves, but I really like this. I got this fairly early in my sewing career, sewing endeavours, after seeing Tilly and the Buttons recommend it, and I'm really glad I did. I've got 2 cutting mats on the cutting table that you can't see, and I'm not going to show you because it's covered in mess, and I use this, and I use washers as my pattern weights. These ones are my favourites because they are heavier, but I've also got some littler round ones, but they're just not really heavy enough, so I am thinking about, I suppose I could either get some more of these and then stick these together into 3s because that's about the right weight, or I might just buy some more of the big square ones, but they were more expensive. I got them in B&Q, but any sort of homeware store will do those, I think. Yes, I really like all 3 of those combined, are excellent. This one was in my Christmas haul video, and it calls itself a hot hammer, and it's basically sort of like interfacing, but really stiff interfacing, with a grid on it and measurement markings, and you can use it to help you press up hems and things, because you just, because you can iron it, without worrying about melting the little plastic bit like I always used to worry about on my seam gauge. And I found it really, really useful. I'm really glad I bought it. Really good. Can I say really anymore? There's not really a lot else to say. It's good. And this one was also in my Christmas haul. Is it a tool? I probably can't really count it as a tool, can I? But it's my magnetic pin dish thing, and I really like it because I am very much a pin dropper and flinger, and then you can just do that. How good is that? Yeah. And I drop them on the floor, and I can just zip them up off the floor as well, and not risk injuring myself, because I am very much a barefoot wanderer-arounder. I'm good with the words. And what else was I going to show? Oh, yes. My snazzy new paper cutter. I'd seen a few people on Instagram have these for cutting out their PDF sewing patterns, and I wanted to go because anything that makes that quicker is worth the money, my book. So I picked one up, and I really like it. You can cut a few sheets at once, so you don't have to spend the time with scissors cutting along each bit of your PDF, and it just is a huge time saver. So that has sped up assembling PDF sewing patterns loads, and I then use my trusty Pritt stick. Other glue sticks are available to stick them together. And I quite like doing that on a weekend morning with a cup of coffee on the living room floor. That just seems to be a bit of a pattern I've got into. But above all, my very favourite, or at least most often used tool has got to be the trusty seam ripper. I've got about 4 of these, and I always seem to end up breaking the little red blob off. I don't know how I do it, maybe I'm too rough with it. So those are some of my favourite tools. If you have any suggestions of other tools you think I might like, I'm all ears, always willing to spend more money on sewing things. But yeah, that's it from me today. Hope you're all having a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.